Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Professor Marcos and Mr. Connolly for the invitation. It's such an honor to be in a World Conference from IFAMA. When I was preparing my presentation, Professor Marcos suggested that I talked about the history of this industry, so where it was 10 years ago, where it is now, and where it's headed. So the corn ethanol industry is brand new. It only started back in 2017. And first of all, I was looking at the future data and all the projections. And as I was sitting here yesterday, I realized, my God, if I came 10 years ago to Ribeirão Preto to talk about corn ethanol, people would have called me insane, for sure. This is the area that concentrates sugarcane production in Brazil, and well, it's changed and it's now a reality. So let me give you an overview of this industry and where we're headed. First of all, I represent the association called UNEM, that's the Brazilian Corn Ethanol Association. We represent 98% of the companies that produce ethanol from corn in Brazil. Some of them will start to produce ethanol also from other origins, such as sorghum. We have a project in the south, as was mentioned, that's going to produce ethanol from wheat and triticale, so winter crops. So it's a very interesting and expanding industry. It's new and it's got a lot of new business executives coming to it. So it starts with all the technology from the U.S. that is the world leader in corn ethanol production, and we have brought this technology to Brazil. The first industry was in Lucas do Rio Verde, FS, from an American investor. And we understand that we can, stimulate the bioeconomy, the green businesses, and we boost the growth of jobs when we produce something out of the corn within Brazil rather than just exporting the corn itself. So looking at the data, I was just reading that if we consider the beginning of the century, we have increased the production of corn in Brazil by 70% in area and 87% in productivity. If you look at the area, it's the orange bars down below, it hasn't changed as much, but total production has increased. Of course, we had gains in productivity. We have a lot of technology. We have to thank all the research associations, the researchers, the biotechnology that's used on the ground, and the knowledge of our farmers. But also, we understand that we're going to continue to grow. And one very important aspect I would like to explain for the sake of our international audience, we are able to produce we call it double cropping in Brazil. So let me just give you a brief overview of that. Within 12 months, in the same plot of land, and I'll use the usual seasons like summer and winter, but in the Central West region it's not really summer, and winter would be more a dry and a wet season, but let's think about the normal seasons. Over the summertime, especially in the Central West region, you will produce a crop like soya, and then over the winter time you'll produce corn. And then in between, you can have livestock raising, and because we are producing DDGs out of the corn, when we produce ethanol, it's a very, very rich animal feed, and we're able to intensify production of livestock in those areas. In some regions of Brazil, like in the Northeast, they're able to produce corn as a third crop, so it's very small amount today, but it's growing. So the increase of production we've had in Brazil was not due to increasing land. We don't have to chop up trees and open up new lands. We are better utilizing the same plots of land, and that will continue to expand. So when you look at, and I'm bringing this data because we always have that, especially coming from international audience, you will have the dilemma of food and fuel. Let me just show how corn is being used today in Brazil. So about 40% is going for exports, 40% being used for feed. For industrial uses, only 14%, and then out of that, 11% is going for ethanol, and then we produce ethanol, DDGs, and corn oil. And then human consumption, 4%, and losses in seeds, about 2%. This is the current map we have. In orange, you see the biorefineries that are already in operation. So we have 24 now in operation. We have another 16 companies with their licenses to operate, and they're starting to build those industries. And we have another 16 that have announced investments and are looking for the government's allowance for them to start their operations and, well, the construction. So we're expanding not only in geographies, moving from the central west region of Brazil towards the northeast, the south, and the north. They're also expanding production within their plants and also expanding to other origins. So sorghum will allow us to go to places where it's drier, and winter crops will allow us to produce ethanol in the south of Brazil as well. So just for the curiosity, we have full ethanol corn ethanol plants. They produce only from corn all year round. We have flex companies. They'll produce from sugarcane and then during the off-season from corn, or some of them are full flex. They will produce, they have 2 lines to produce at the same time ethanol from corn and from sugarcane. So to give you an overview of what this industry does, out of 1,000 kilos of corn, we use renewable sources like wood chips from planted forests to produce the steam and fill up make the industry work. Some companies in Brazil are experimenting also with bamboo, which has a faster growth rate than eucalyptus. And then out of that, we will produce 440 liters of ethanol, about 212 kilos of DDGs, and 19 kilos of corn oil. And we have a surplus of electricity that gets sent back to the grid. So it's a very circular and very sustainable system, producing not only food but also feed. These are the total numbers for the production of bioethanol in Brazil. And you see how corn in the green areas has become more and more important. And we have heard from the government, and we thank Congressman Arnaldo Jardim, who's really the leader in those issues in Brazil. We have heard from the government that government felt safe to have all those public policies be taken in place because they understand that the corn ethanol industry is able to expand production. So this is what's happening now. So looking into the future, where we are today, in the middle of this graph here, this year we'll produce 8.24 million liters of ethanol, corn ethanol. We will more than double over the next decade. And to be honest, whenever we make a presentation, I go back to the data. We work with IMEA in Mato Grosso, and we always have to keep updating the data because it's going even faster than our PowerPoint presentations. But this is the latest data we have. And then also we have more productivity out of 1,000 kilos of corn. They've been improving their capacity to take ethanol out of that ton of corn. And then today we are already about 23% of the total overall ethanol production in Brazil. And the international audience maybe not know, and has been mentioned before, we have flex fuel cars in Brazil. They're now 77% of our fleet, meaning you can go to the gas station and you will find ethanol in any gas station. You can fill it up only with ethanol or with gasoline. And if you fill it up with gasoline, it's got today 27% of ethanol, and it will have 30%. So you have a smaller amount of greenhouse gas emissions with that. And here we are making a comparison of the hybrid cars, the flex, the electric cars. And we really see that the hybrid flex cars are really the solution for Brazil, the most sustainable solution for the Brazilian situation. Also, we produce DDGs, and this is a very rich animal feed product that can be used for cattle, for sheep, for swine, for poultry, pets, and even fish, so all animal species. It's more nutritive than the corn itself because you remove the starch when you make the ethanol, and it's 3 times more nutritive than the corn. So production has been expanding. We'll produce about 4.83 million tons this year. We have just opened the Chinese market last May, and we were there talking to COFCO, and they said only they want to buy 5 million tons of DDGs from Brazil. And we were like, wow. And then we started saying, you know, if you want more DDGs, maybe you can also add ethanol to the gasoline within China. Then you're gonna demand more, and then maybe we'll be able to increase production within Brazil and export more. So it all, you know, you don't have DDGs if you don't have the corn ethanol. So just very quickly to show, it's particularly used for cattle in Brazil. This is an example to show you for the Mato Grosso state. You have the pasture areas in orange. You have the total amount of animals, of cattle, in the green line on top. The green at the bottom is the production of DDGs, so you'd see when it started and how it's grown. And the black line that rises exponentially almost, that's the stocking rate. So the amount of heads you can have per hectare. So you can intensify production because it's such a nutritive feed for animals. And we've seen that also animals have been slaughtered at a younger age. Of course, there's a demand from the Chinese market that wants younger animals, but we've been able to produce animals faster, and that's a more sustainable way of producing food. We have a program to promote exports of DDGs because 3 years ago, the industry thought, well, what if we produce too much DDGs? The price internally is going to drop, so let's open up the new market. So we have a program with IFAMA Brazil, and we exported just in 2021, 4 years ago, $1 million, and then $90 million, $180 million. Last year, $190 million, and this year until May, already $100 million. And in this program, here are the key markets we look into exporting, especially Asian markets. I'm responsible for that program within the association. And then going to the end of my presentation, it is said there's a conflict between food and fuel, but I think we should look at it in a different way. It's food plus fuel, because we can produce both in the Brazilian situation. And when you look at corn ethanol, it's food and feed and fuel. We're going to produce feed that's going to be fed to the animals, that's food for our human consumption, and we're producing fuel as well. So we don't see a conflict here. We have to finalize a virtual cycle, not only for cattle, but for all the animals. You know, you're going to have animals ready for slaughter at a faster rate. We will increase production by area, and you will reduce greenhouse gas emissions per animal. And the future brings a lot of interesting things for us. We can increase the use of biofuels within Brazil. We are recognized worldwide for our leadership in that area. Sustainable aviation fuels is one of the future opportunities. The aviation sector has very strong demand to reduce their carbon emissions. Also for maritime fuels. And another technology, we have a legal framework in Brazil now, just also recent, bioenergy with carbon capture and storage. FS will have the first plant being inaugurated in 1 year's time, in which they capture the carbon from the corn ethanol production, and they put it 1 kilometer down into the ground. They've made all the geological surveys, and so they're going to become carbon negative. And I have to mention yesterday, Mr. Arnaldo Jardim was there, so the big event in which it was announced that from August 1st we'll have 30% of ethanol in our gasoline. And I also, to finalize, I have to mention we have COP30 in Brazil this year, and Ambassador André Correia do Lago just launched his 4th letter of the action agenda, and we really have to take this opportunity to make sure we talk about the importance of biofuels or renewable fuels for the energy transition. We will produce more corn, so we see a bright future for this industry. And these are the companies that we represent, the corn producing, the other ones that provide services, and also other associations. Thank you very much.